Well, you're an interviewer, and that's what you do.
That's
You
right.
do incredibly well. Most recently, Sunday's Post-Journal, Wynton Marsalis.
That's right.
I found it great that you were able to tap into his father.
Yeah.
Was that kind of predetermined that you were going to get into that, or did it just come organically?
I have to tell you, that was my main reason in reaching out, to see if I could talk to him, because I mean, I was there that night that they brought Ellis Marsalis out to play what Wynton eventually told me he was supposed to play, a blues number on that evening dedicated to Duke Ellington, and instead he played the most famous Duke Ellington piece there is, which is Take the A Train. And so that really geared me, and I knew the story about how he had passed away from COVID in April. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that could be an interesting angle. And so I reached out to Jordan Steeves, and he was great. He put me in touch with the Jazz at Lincoln Center publicist, and she arranged a conference call for us, and we spoke about it. And I wanted to tap into that, because I've learned that when you can bring up something that can get your interviewee a little bit more comfortable, when it turns into stuff like that, it always ends up being a great interview. That wasn't my first question to Mr. Marsalis, but I could tell that when I asked the question, there was a little bit of pause, and that was neat. It was really, really a special memory, and to see him that night, and I had seen him around throughout the week. That week he was attending every single lecture and performance that week, and then to see him perform was special. But it was even more meaningful, seeing that and Wynton said it was one of his last times really spending that much time with his father. So I can imagine how meaningful it was on their end. But for us, those of us in the audience as well, I mean, what a special memory that is, and another great Chautauqua moment.
So you are the recipient of a huge Hellinger Award.
Mm-hmm.
How did you learn about your being selected?
Oh gosh, this is a good story. When I graduated in December 2019.
Early, by the way.
Early, by the way, yes. Many thanks to Jamestown High School and JCC for that, and the college connections. But I was working nights at the Post-Journal and covering games. I was Panama one night, Sherman one night, Frewsburg another. And those shifts, as Scott Kinberg can attest to, are grueling in that you don't get done until 2 a.m. So, my work day wouldn't start until 5, 6, 7-ish. And I woke up that morning late. But I woke up to a missed call from a Texas number, and I get all kinds of phone messages from weird phone numbers and whatnot because of robocalls and whatnot. But I got this call. I listened to the voicemail, and it was Aaron Chimble, the dean of the Giandoli School. I hadn't had a cell phone number, so I listened to the voicemail, and he goes, "Call me back. I have some important." Something important I want to talk to you about. And I had a feeling it was right around the time of year where they were going to announce the awards, and the due date was a week prior. And I thought, oh, maybe this is the call. Maybe I got something. But he called me, and he said, we wanted to just hope you're doing well. We're calling to tell you that you were awarded the Giandoli Award for Outstanding Achievement by a Journalism major. And I said, oh, thank you very much. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder if I got the Hellinger. And he goes, and I buried the lead, you're the Hellinger recipient as well. And I thought, I was speechless, and I was going, oh my God, and my mom's opening the door, and she's like, what's going on? Like she didn't know. And that's when he told me, and I'm telling you, to receive that is such an honor, because the kids who had won it in the years prior to me were kids I aspired to. And then you've got, the real, the landmark names that are on that list: Mike Vaccaro, Michael Hill, Jordan Steves, Neil Cavuto. I mean, there's so many people, and then to think you're on that same list and that same lineage is incredible. I never did what I did at Bonaventure for that. I mean, that's a bonus. I had a great experience, and I had professors that became friends and trusted me wholeheartedly like I trusted them, and just taught me the value of being able to tell a story and how to do it compelling, how to make it compelling, how to make it well read. And that was, I think back to that morning often, and I have in the couple weeks since actually receiving the award, but very special, very special.
Speaking of missed calls, you've missed a couple of calls over time. Why don't you talk about that other missed call?
Oh gosh, this is my famous MO. Billy Cowbaugh, the St. Bonaventure Hall of Fame point guard, co-captain on the 1970 Final Four team, is coming to Jamestown and doing a special event at the Jackson Center. And so I'm stringing for the Post-Journal at the time. I'm a senior in high school, and I'm going to Bonaventure, all excited. One of my close family friends is Larry Weesey, the coach of that team. He was great friends of my grandfather and my grandmother. I've known them since practically birth. And I said to Larry when I was interviewing him for a preview story on Cowbaugh coming to Jamestown, I said, "What are the odds I could talk to Bob Lanier?" And he goes, "Well, I can, I'll give you his email. I think he'd be willing to talk to you, and, mention that you talked to me and that you got it from me, and he'll be happy to, I'm sure he'll be happy to talk with you." And I said, okay. Fired off an email right after I got off the phone with Larry. And once again, an hour later, I don't even think it was an hour later, I think it was even sooner, I get a phone call from a Phoenix, Arizona number. It doesn't leave a voicemail. Once again, I'm thinking it's a robocall. I was wrong. So the number doesn't leave a voicemail. Next day, it's the weekend of my senior prom, and I was on student council, so I was working all day trying to set up we did it at the train station before they turned it into the comedy center. And all of a sudden I was home and I was resting quick before the big dance and whatever, and I took a little bit of a nap and had 2 missed calls from the same Phoenix, Arizona number, and an email back saying, "Tried calling you twice. No response. Go straight to voicemail," because I had my phone on Do Not Disturb. So really hitting it off right away with the most famous graduate of the university I'm about to go attend. And it's just crazy. So now we're on Bob Lanier watch, and I'm trying to call him. Tried calling him back immediately, no answer. Next day, tried calling him back, no answer. Monday, Memorial Day, no answer. Tuesday, senior skip day, I'm coming back from Presque Isle. I get home, just putting my stuff down. I finally get a call back from this Phoenix, Arizona number. And at the time, I didn't have any other way to record it, so I screaming to my mother, "Mom, let me borrow your phone so I can, talk to him on one and record it on the other." And I got 7 minutes with him.
Oh, great.
And it was great. And it was, just what I was looking for. He was, I would be lying to you if he wasn't a little bit annoyed that we had played phone tag for the last couple of days. But he was gracious. That's one thing you'll learn, is that these guys have spoken to the media forever, and, he's retired, and, but I was grateful that he gave me that time. That was fun. And then it made for some good fodder with Billy later that week. So that was good.
And subsequently, not only did you do the interview with me, with Cal Bob, and
Mhm.
did incredibly well. But we then interviewed two of us with Larry Weesey.
Yes. Yes.
And that was great.
Yeah.
And then you had a chance to catch up with Cal Bob et al. And Lanier during the 50th. What was that like?
I'll tell you, I got to touch base. That weekend was so crazy, and I really didn't have a chance to spend as much time with them as I probably would have liked. But I spoke to Billy. Billy was a great source during my time at Bonna's when we, my junior year, Mark Schmidt passed Larry Weesey to become the most winningest, the all-time winningest head coach, and I reached out to Billy, to Larry. I just wanted to get some thoughts from guys from that team, and Billy was great, and he remembered me very well. It turned out that night that we interviewed him in Jamestown, one of the assistant principals at Jamestown High School, Leslie Melquist, she was a biology teacher of mine at Purcell Middle School. That was her uncle. Billy married her aunt, so I was always able to use that connection with him. He was wonderful. He's a great man, and I didn't have the chance to catch up with Lanier much at the 50th. He was, from all intents and purposes, he hasn't been in the best health, and I know that from what I understand, that the travel was tough for him. But it was just great to see him there. They really rolled out the red carpet. There was a student athlete that was with him 24/7 for anything that he needed, and they made him as comfortable as they possibly could. So that was neat. That whole weekend was just, it was just spectacular because, they were there and it meant so much to them, and they really did such a great job of honoring them. We had worked so hard to figure out what the best way to do it was with the all-time team, and it's rare that you would see the 50th anniversary of arguably the program's greatest team, and the 100th anniversary, the centennial of the program, all in one year. And we had worked for, since April that previous, before that basketball season, to make it special and really do what we could. I was on the committee for that. I did an exhibit for that, which was very cool in the Quick Center for the Arts. We did a lot of research, found a lot of really cool newspaper clippings. Very cool, very, very cool experience.
So when you won the Hellinger Award, Scott Kinberg, your immediate boss over at the Post-Journal, wrote a wonderful article. I think it was in May, and he quoted Mike Vaccaro, who said he was given ability, notably the Goodell Project and the Bonner 50th Anniversary Project that would overwhelm 99% of most college undergrads. I know they'd have overwhelmed me, as widely ambitious as I was at his age. And yet, it wasn't only that he executed those projects perfectly. It wasn't even remotely surprising that he did. That's from Mike Vaccaro. Now, we talked about the Bonner Project, and then there's the Goodell Project. How did that, what's the genesis of that?
Well, I'm speaking with the person that brought it to my attention, but I got all those emails from yourself and Joe Zanetta and Sue Murphy and Tim Goodell, and just kind of realizing that this anniversary was coming up, and at the time it was the perfect storm because I had applied to different internships, but nothing was kind of coming back, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do that summer anyway, and I had spent the year before at the Jackson Center, and it just turned out to be the perfect storm. It gave me some guidance, and it sounded exciting.
Just for the camera, what was the anniversary?
It was 2018 marked the 50th anniversary of Charlie Goodell's appointment to the U.S. Senate, and that's auspicious here because there had only been one other U.S. senator from this region, and it was Reuben Fenton, who became the governor, and it was 99 years earlier. So, for that seat to become essentially a Jamestown born and bred seat, the congressional representative, it's like, Tom Reed getting appointed to the U.S. Senate now, and it's, you wouldn't necessarily see that. It always goes to a downstate person. So it was just, very unique circumstances. And, God, that was such a pleasure because, I had read Tim Graham of the Buffalo News, who later left Buffalo News for The Athletic. He did a phenomenal profile piece on the senator, and I had read that Super Bowl weekend when it came out, so it was in my head. And then all of a sudden, when I saw that this was in the works here in Jamestown, I thought, wow, how cool that would be. I mean, it's timely. It's really timely. And 1968 is such a fascinating year in and of itself. So, and this is how, and his story fits into that. Martin Luther King gets assassinated, then Bobby Kennedy gets assassinated, and then you've got this Jamestown native that suddenly finds himself in the middle of one of the most contentious periods in U.S. politics, and doesn't stray away from the big conversations. I mean, as I learned so much more about him, I just was so in awe because, and it's really geared why what I ended up naming the exhibit in the documentary was, Daniel Ellsberg referred to him as a real model for courage, similar in the way that John F. Kennedy had profiled all those of courage in and of itself. And, I found myself really kind of finding a hero in the process. That was just a really cool, and I looked forward to going to work every day and finding, the clippings and, how did this connect? Well, what was he doing in 1966? And what was, how did this predate? And how did he woo over Rockefeller, over so many other very qualified people that could have gotten that Senate seat? And that was tremendous. I mean, it was special. Being able to design all of that was a great experience. And I mean, the payoff on that was, the day we had the event, seeing the family's reaction to it was just staggering. Including, the commissioner, and it's things like that make it all worthwhile. And to see the smile, to see to get the, Cameron, I'm Roger, thank you for what you did, was tremendous. I'm so grateful to, certainly Tim was a big help. Pat Goldman, they were tremendous. I met with them up at their home in Chautauqua, up at the the homestead in Chautauqua, and we went through some different things. And I mean, I get chills thinking about it. He shows me the flag. Probably the neatest thing that we found on their end that they were willing to let us use, and then we turned around and gifted back to them in a really cool way, was the flag that was flying from the U.S. Capitol the day that he was sworn in September of that year. And that was special. We found a really beautiful flag case for that. Lynn's Funeral Home, my friend Gary Kinberg was so kind in that. We he taught me how to fold it. We got it in there. It was a big flag, so it took a while to get in. But anyway, that was special. There was a beautiful signed photo of Charlie and Gerald Ford, then President Gerald Ford, who had been his colleague in Congress with the Young Turks. Them shaking hands, signed, Charlie, thanks for all you did for his work with the Clemency Board. That was signed, that we featured. I mean, there were some really, really cool items. Former professor at JCC brought some telegrams that he had written him, for an anti-war demonstration. It was. I look back, and there's so many things that I've done in my life that I'm very, very proud of. But that most certainly is number one,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no question. And I'm so grateful to you guys for involving me in that. You and Joe and Susan at the time, and Deke Kathman was there that summer, and he was great help. The Jackson Center staff, Sherry, and everybody, but it was great, really special.
Well, not only did you do it visually through an exhibit, but you also had a video.
Yeah.
That is something that I'm not sure we knew that was a talent of yours. And
I don't think I knew it was a talent of mine either until I did it to that extent, and that was neat.
Well, just to find the footage, and there was some support certainly from the Pat Kinneys and others who found articles, Bibles, stuff.
Yes,
were
yes.
meant, and it was terrific, and ultimately there was an autographed football from the commissioner to you that's been well documented. I happened to be there with this camera, which is dumb luck,
I know.
to take the picture. And,
I know.
And I quickly hit the video where he could talk to you a little bit about it, because it wasn't part of the ceremony. It was
a very impromptu thing afterwards.
Reception, yeah.
And I remember I saw somebody. I was just talking to him, and Andy Goodell that day had brought all these. It was I don't know who did it, but it was a bunch of copies of this paper that had been done on Senator Goodell, and I grabbed one, and I thought, I'd be nice to just have Roger to sign this. I feel like that would be really special. So I brought it to him, and I said, Roger, would you be willing enough to sign this, just for my own personal, keepsake? And he goes, oh, absolutely. He goes, and don't you go anywhere. He goes, I got something for you. I said, oh wow. I said, I don't know what this is, and he signed it. He wrote, Cameron, you're a star, Roger Goodell. And then moments later, we're out in the lobby, and all of a sudden I think it was Tim. Somebody had ran out to the car and got him. All of a sudden I see him palm it in my hand, and he goes, this is for you. Thanks for all you did. Yeah. We're so grateful. And that was just, he goes, don't drop it. Don't fumble it. Don't. That's what's on video. That's what I.
He should watch it.
Oh, gosh.
And he hasn't. Well, that was a big day on everybody's part, and you've been a part of that. So was this a natural thing? I mean, we're seeing today you as a rock star, a rising star, and we're lucky to have you here for however long you happen to be here, but we all fully suspect we'll be reading about you in some very large capacity.
Wow.
And I no need to even respond to that, but was this something you wanted to get into? I mean, what was the aha moment where you knew you could write and you demonstrated that publicly? Not everybody is willing to share that.
Sure. I'm thinking back. There's a lot of different Genesis moments for me. I mean, I had spent a long time as a kid doing, in the local arts, little theater, junior guilders, the whole thing, and that was my niche. That was my thing, and I thought, I love to sing and I love to do that stuff, act. I knew that I didn't want to necessarily do that for a career. So when I got to middle school, I had a teacher that had a daughter that was a senior at the time, and she was planning on going to Syracuse and was planning on going to Newhouse, had gotten into Newhouse. I didn't realize then how impressive that was until later on. But she started saying, and she goes, you'd be good at that. You can write. You do good stuff in your English classes. Why don't you look into communications? And I said, well, maybe I will. In the meantime, English was my favorite subject, English and history. Could not do math or science well. And I had great English teachers that just encouraged me, that made me fall in love with writing. Grace Johnson in the 8th grade, whose daughter Abby I ended up interning with later on at the Jackson Center. Barbie Price, Julie Morano, Norma DeJoy, and Christine Strons. And those four, when it came time for us to and I finished in the top 5% of my class at JHS. When it came time for us to, say which class was your favorite at JHS, I named those 4 because it was the English classes that made me fall in love with writing, and they were each so helpful to me in instrumental ways. I mean, all 4 of them helped me out with my college essay in one way or another that was awesome. So I knew by the time I got to high school that I wanted to do something in this field. And it was the summer before my sophomore year. I went to football games. I loved sports, and I'd see all the guys on the sidelines, and I'd see Mr. Prinzi in the press box, and I'd say, I think that'd be cool to be there. And I like paying attention to the game. Everybody goes to those games as a kid, and they just kind of socialize as the chance to see everybody after school. And I, to me, it was nice, but I wanted to be a part of it and be in the thick of it. And so, summer before my sophomore year, I fired off an email to Scott Kinberg, who I really didn't know well. I'd gone to school with his one nephew since kindergarten, and I knew Gary well. But I sent off, and I'd been reading Scott forever, and I loved the way that he wrote stories, and I loved, he was known in the community, and people were always talking about his columns after big football games, Southwestern football games, and different things, and I said, I'd love to get into this. I go back and I look at the email every once in a while, and it's just I cringe looking at what I wrote, but it was just funny. So I was so young, but I said, I'm interested in this stuff. Can I intern with you? He responds to me back. He goes, Cameron, let's talk. He was so excited to help me out, and I could tell that I just was so grateful for that. So we talked. He goes, well, we don't have an internship program. He goes, but I'm happy to offer you a shadow opportunity. Why don't you come? Call me closer to football season. This was like in July that I had emailed him, and I said, can we talk about, call me when you get closer to September, and I'll have you come with me to a football game, and I'll show you in the office after, and I'll show you how to use TX Word, and I'll show you how to get things into the queue and everything. And I said, okay. So I did, and he brought me to, he taught me how to, it was literally like, sports writing 101. But, it was great. We went, first game we went to was a Southwestern football game, and he showed me how to take notes, how to keep scoring, how to, I sat as he interviewed Jay Sirianni after, and that was tremendous. Went back to the office, and I saw him kind of write a story, and he said, I want you to proof a different story. This is going to run tomorrow too. Let me know what you think. And so I looked some stuff up. I typed in some golf scores. I mean, it was just so cool. And I did that for a couple weeks with him. And then, JHS had a tremendous year that year. Jake Sisson was the quarterback, and they were on pace to, go to the, certainly win the section for the first time in years. And, I knew Tom Langworthy from church, and I knew his family and whatever. So it was just cool to see the high school football team do so well. And Scott would be taking me there, even though Jim Riggs was still covering the team. Scott and I would be going for the second half to get some photos, to just see what's going on. And then, Terry Hesslink would be there, and we'd bring Terry back to the office. And so we got to the point where there were a couple of local teams that were going to be at the Section 6 final at Ralph Wilson Stadium. And Scott said, why don't you come with me? I'll get you off of school for the day. Come with me to media day. I said, okay, neat. Go up to the, the field. That'd be awesome. We're in the car, and that was just awesome to be there. But we're in the car. In the meantime, I had done some interviews myself that day. I interviewed the coach that JHS was going to play. I interviewed Tom with Scott. I interviewed a couple of the players. We're on our way back, and Scott says to me, he goes, Cam, he goes, the stuff that you've been writing, just that you've been sending me, is really, really good. Why don't you can't waste it, and right now there's, you're doing stuff that's so good. Why don't you create a blog? I said, gosh, that's a good idea. focus it all on JHS athletics, he goes, and see where it takes you. See what it does. I said, fine. So I created the blog that night that I got back, or it was the night of, yeah, that was that week. And I called it the Rowdy Raider. And I started writing. And I wrote a preview story for the Section 6 championship. I wrote a wrap-up story because I went just as a student. And was the response I was getting was so cool. I'd update people on Twitter. It was kind of cool. Everybody was like really into this, and I would be writing these stories. And so JHS beats Frontier, and they're going to play, the Rochester powerhouse Aquinas. And the quarterback on that team was my age, a sophomore, and I mean, they won, I think, two state championships, and he ended up going to Penn State on a full ride. Injury didn't let him play, but anyway, I sent an email to the coach at Aquinas, and I said I would like to do a preview story. I said I write this blog, keeping at JHS Athletics. Here are my questions. Can you respond back or call me or whatever? He was kind enough that he sent back a really nice response, and said he said I still have nightmares of. He goes, I was the defensive coordinator for Webster Schroeder in 2000, and I still have nightmares of Aaron Leeper running up and down the field. So he goes, if we could get back at you this weekend, now that I'm in this job, I will feel content. So he was great, Chris Battaglia, and that was great. I went to the game that night. I kept everybody updated because not everybody got the game on TV. Not everybody was listening to the radio, so I kept them updated on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. And that went really cool. And I gained a lot of traction. I got a lot of people that started following me. And I did it into basketball season. That year they went to the state championship. And then the next year was the state championship football year, my junior year. And, I was at every game with Scott. Scott by that time had taken over the Red Raider beat because Jim Riggs had gotten sick. And was just an unbelievable time. We went to Ralph Wilson Stadium again. We went to Rochester. And then we went to the Carrier Dome. And that's when I thought I loved Syracuse University. So I was like, this is even better. This is what a storybook ending this is going to be. So, so we're there. And they win the state championship, and that was just special. And Tom Langworthy gave me a state championship ring. They allowed me to order a state championship ring. And then at the football banquet, by that time the blog had gained thousands of followers, thousands of views. I can't even think off the top of my head how many views it was getting by that time. And we had 1,000 followers on Twitter. So, which at that time was pre-Donald Trump and not as widely used as much as it is now. And I'm at the football banquet and with Scott, and Scott was insistent that I had to go. I said okay. I had a conflict I was in the Living Christmas Tree that year, and he goes, no, you have to go. He goes, please be there. So they get to the point where they're honoring the different boosters and whatnot, and they introduced a new award that year, and it's the Walt Rudy Award for in honor of Walt Rudy, who was a family friend of ours. Watched my brothers both play baseball and everything, and obviously such an ardent supporter of everything Jamestown. So I'm sitting there, and they're explaining that this is the Walt Rudy Award for the person who uses their skill and passion to help benefit Jamestown High School football in many different ways. And I think to myself, what a neat award. And then all of a sudden, Tom Langworthy goes, this student has inspired us all in his coverage of our program, and we're so grateful. Walt Rudy, the inaugural Walt Rudy Award goes to Cameron Hurst. And I said, oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. And I was very verklempt, knowing how much Walt meant to our family. Walt was with my mother the day that my mother found out she was having me. I mean, that was a very, very, just all in one. And so that was another special chance, and they were awesome. That whole JHS football crew, they were great. Ben Drake too with basketball. I was covering basketball games, learning how to, and that's where I really fell in love with basketball. I was watching, watching them both on the football field and the basketball field, but Steven Carlson and Zach Panabianco and Ben Larson and Zach Kinsey and just Matt Nazzaro, so many tremendous athletes that were during my time at JHS, and just really cool. So now it's time to look for colleges, and I apologize if I'm drooling on, but Syracuse was my dream, and like I said, I did early admission. That was the place I visited the most. And I knew that was it. I wanted to go to Newhouse, and I knew that this was going to be this was the place. That was the place. It was it was the Holy Grail. And my uncle Bruce Stanton, manager of the hotel at the Anthonyum Hotel, had on his advisory board Roger Connor, Roger was on the advisory board at Newhouse. So Bruce introduced me to Roger. We had lunch. I told Roger all that I had done. He goes, I'm going to write you a recommendation. Hopefully we'll get you in. He goes, but let me make this perfectly clear. It is very hard to get into Newhouse. It is under 10% acceptance. And he goes, but, if you got the grades, you got the stuff, you'll do it. And I said, well, I did early decision, and worked on my essay, top to bottom, worked on everything, made sure everything, all the T's were crossed, all the I's were dotted, sent it off, and it's December, and I get a notification. It's the week that we're going to be on Christmas break, and I get a notification that congratulations, you've been accepted into your priority 2 and 3 schools at Syracuse. You have not been accepted into the Newhouse School of Communications. And I said, oh man. So now I was back to the drawing board. My number 2 school was great. I looked at John Carroll University, and tremendous reputation with Tim Russert. And but as I got back to the drawing board, I was reminded of a conversation I had had the year earlier. My grandfather had passed it. My grandfather was single-handedly the crux of my growing up. We were best friends. And he passed away the year earlier. And that day, of the funeral, I saw a friend of his I hadn't seen in years, a gentleman named Carl Sagleben. And they were neighbors in their retirement village in Florida. Carl went to Dunkirk High School, went to St. Bonaventure, played on some great NIT teams. Was the center on those NIT teams, and played for Eddie Melvin, then Eddie Donovan, and just became superintendent at Hinsdale High School. Very, very close. He and my grandfather were high school basketball rivals. My grandfather played at JHS. He played at Dunkirk. They clashed, and we'd known them forever. So they didn't reconnect until they moved to Florida together. Mm-hmm. So he pulls me aside at the luncheon after the funeral, and I'd given the eulogy, and Sag would have been the only other person that could have given my grandfather's eulogy. And he says, where are you looking at college? And I said, Syracuse. He stops me. He goes, wrong. He goes, you got to go to St. Bonaventure. You have to go to St. Bonaventure. He goes, you write, you do all these great things, you're a great writer. That's the school, and you're going to love it at basketball season. I know you're going to love it. I said, okay. I said, I don't know, Sag. I said, it's small, it's too close. I don't know if I want to do that. And he goes, I promise you. He goes, you'll mark my words. You go there, you love it. So I'm back to the drawing board. Now we're back a year later, and back to the drawing board. No clue what I'm going to do. And I said, well, let me look into St. Bonaventure a little bit, maybe. In the meantime, JHS was playing an exhibition game at the Riley Center. Scott said to me, hey, I know you had a tough week. Why don't you come with me? We'll go cover the Bonnie. We'll go cover the Red Raiders at the Riley Center. I said, sure. So that was the first time I'd been on campus there, ever. We didn't go that way, so I wasn't familiar with the school. I just knew the people that talked about it. And walked onto that campus, and I thought, wow, what a what a beautiful campus this is. It was a snowy day, but even so, I mean, that place looks great even in snow. Walked into the Riley Center, and I saw Lanier, Weesey, Sadlin, the whole nine, and I thought, wow. I said, what a unique place this is. No wonder. And at the time, they were very good. That was the year they went to the NIT. They should have gone in the NCAA tournament. And I was on my way back with Scott, and I said, you know what about there? He goes, I'll tell you. And Scott made the point. He goes, one of my best friends is Chuck Pollock. He's been the sports editor at the Olean Times-Herald forever. He teaches classes there. He goes, he just raves about the program. He goes, there's a lot of great people that have come through that program. You look at the alumni list, Mike Vaccaro, one of them. And so, I looked, I scheduled another visit. I got accepted right away, even because it was all on rolling decision. And sure enough, I set in my deposit the day before, 364 days after my grandfather passed away. And so, it was just kind of kismet. It was heaven sent. I firmly believe that he guided my decision there. Yeah. He loved the Bonnies. He went out all the time. My grandmother tells me the story. She goes, I used to get so nervous about him driving back and forth in the snow in the winter to go see with Larry and everybody, but it was, he loved that program. And so that's how it happened. To wrap it even more, I wrote a column that appeared in the Post-Journal about my college decision, just because I thought it was a cool story. And I posted it on my blog, and Scott said, let me put it in the paper. He goes, I think that'll be nice for the readers to see. And I get an email one day, I'm at school, get an email on my school computer that from Mike Vaccaro, class of '89. Now I'm thinking that this is just you get all these promotional emails from the university, but I looked and I said, oh my God, that's actually him. And he, Mike wrote me the nicest note. I hadn't even set foot on the campus as a student yet. And he said, I have to tell you, I really enjoyed the column. Scott Kinberg sent it to me. I don't know if I've ever read anything that good from someone quite so young. And I thought, he goes, enjoy your time there. It'll go quicker than you ever expect. And you're going to be like me, looking back and saying, you could take every advantage of every opportunity you have there. It's a special place. And he said, Pax et Bonum, peace and good in Latin, and Mike Vaccaro. I responded back to him. And so that kind of kicked our friendship, and just incredible. So that was all before I got there. And then, obviously I had such a great experience while I was there, but great stuff. And so, but it goes back to what you asked, and how did I want to know I did this? I had some great people that guided me there. Scott among them, SAG, and obviously the English teachers that played so prominently in my life. It was great.
Well, I have visions of you right at the score table. They're really freshman year.
Yeah,
you were front
right there,
and center in some amazing games. But one of the things that really stands out is the saga of how you got to the NCAAs in Texas.
Oh, wow.
When that wasn't on anybody's budget or radar screen.
Right. At that time, that year of the NCAAs,
which was
2017-18 season, I had been working in athletic communications as a paid intern. They didn't pay interns. They offered me the opportunity to be a paid intern that year, and Steve Mest, Scott Eddy, local, were awesome to me the entire year, and great. So it gets time now. I mean, that weekend that they were in the A10 tournament, they needed to win 2 games. They only won 1. So now we're looking at shades of 2016. Now we're thinking to ourselves, oh my God, this is going to be awful. They're going to get snubbed again. So I'm driving back to. I had come home for the weekend. I'm driving back to campus, and the selection shows that night. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm so bummed, because if they go, I'm probably not going. I'm an intern in the athletic department, and they can only take so many people, and they're not going to take the lowly kid on the totem pole. And I wasn't a part of, and I was, I've been working PR all year for the team, and I wasn't a part of any of the news organizations that would have sent, the student news organization or the professional news organization that would have sent somebody to go. So I get back to campus, I'm working the selection show. There was the one year of the selection show that they announced the teams in alphabetical order. And so we don't know how to react, because are we Saint S-A-I-N-T Bonaventure, or are we S-T Bonaventure? So now we're getting past all these schools and we're all freaking out. Suddenly it pops up on the screen. Everybody goes crazy. It's one of the coolest, I get chills thinking back to it. And I look, I get chills. And so now it's exciting. Everybody's going. And all of a sudden, I see the Riley Center offices. The offices are right in the wings of people as they're walking by, normally when they're there for a game. And I was there all the time. All of a sudden, I see all my bosses, Tim Kenny, Scott Eddie, Steve Mess. They're all frantic, because they reveal afterwards that while most of those schools have until Thursday or Friday to get to where they need to go and practice, or Wednesday, whatever, it's Sunday. Bonaventure plays Tuesday night in the first four, so in Dayton, Ohio. So nobody was planning on that. We thought that we would have had an at-large bid and gone right to one of the first selection sites. So I thought to myself, oh gosh, this is just a mess, and I'm not going to bug them and see. So I get on the phone with Scott. I said, Scott, I have to tell you, I'm all so happy, but and Scott came out for the selection show. I'm so bummed out. Because they're all going to go, and I'm not. And he goes, send Scott an email right now. He said, Scott Eddie, send Scott an email right now. Tell them that if necessary, I can take you. We'll get you a credential through the Post-Journal. We'll make this happen. You have to go. And I said, okay. And and I'm not one to really push back on things, and especially I knew that they were all frantic, just trying to get things in order. I sent Scott an email, and he responds back. He goes, we'll put you on the list if the Post-Journal can get a credential for you. We'll be happy to make sure that you're there. And I said, wow. So Scott says, I'll go. He goes, we'll drive. He goes, come home Monday night. Be ready to leave Tuesday morning. And I said, okay. I said, ready to roll.
This is to Dayton.
This is just to Dayton, Ohio. So who's Bonaventure playing in the first four? UCLA. Who were they supposed to play in 1970 to win the national championship? UCLA. It's all just coming wrapping in. In the meantime, in preparation for what we thought was going to be an NCAA tournament run, I did a story for the Bonaventure Athletic Communications that I enterprised it myself, and I said, why don't we this would be great. This is a great opportunity. Let's get all three of the major coaches that coach for the program. This is their chance. Let's see what they think about this team. So I called up Larry. I called up Jim Satlin. I got in touch with Jim Barron, and that what we talked to them about this team and what they thought, and just I'd gotten to know Jim Satlin, who was in Dayton as well. He's the color guy for Syracuse basketball. Syracuse had gotten put to the first four as well. So we're all there. So now we get to Dayton. And what I didn't realize until somebody texted me that was listening to the game, Jim Satlin called out my article on the radio broadcast with Gary Neese and said, I talked to Cameron Hurst this week. What a great story that was he did on us. I told him the same thing this week. This team's destined for great things. So Scott and I had driven down long road to Dayton, Ohio, and we're there. We both relax for a little bit when we get there, and we go to the NCAA. We're at UD Arena, and Bonaventure doesn't play until late that night. Scott's plan is to go home the next morning, and I have a quiz the next morning in the hardest class I've ever taken at St. Bonaventure. So and there were a bunch of students there. Bona wins. What a game. Just tremendous stuff. Courtney Stockard and all these guys, Jalen Adams, even though he didn't have the best game, Matt Mobley. Bona wins, and we're talking, we're figuring things out. We'll leave next morning. We're staying half hour away. We're leaving. Scott and I are leaving, and one of the media personnel there was Bill Plaschke from the Los Angeles Times, who I grew up watching on Around the Horn, and who, I love one of my favorite columnists. And I saw that he was on the media list. Very neat. So we're leaving, and he's got all the time in the world because it's 9 o'clock Eastern time. He doesn't have to file his column for Los Angeles until whenever. He stops us as we're leaving, and he goes, "Hey, one of you guys, do you cover St. Bonaventure for the beat? Any of the beat guys?" And Scott goes, I cover him every once in a while. He's the student. He knows." I said, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "St. Bonaventure, how many kids? 4,000, 5,000, and it's right outside of Buffalo, right? Just right in the neighborhood." I said, "Well, Mr. Plaschke, it's about 1,800 students, and we're about 70 miles south of Buffalo." He goes, "You're kidding." I said, "No." I said, we're in the south, and I said, "We're closer to Pennsylvania than we are to Buffalo, New York." He goes, "UCLA lost to that program?" He goes, "Oh my gosh, what a..." He goes, "That's gonna get..." He goes, that tells me all I need to know about what I need to write for tomorrow's column." And he goes, "Thanks, kid." I said, "Thanks a lot." And I said, "My pleasure, Mr. Plaschke." I said, "I'm a big fan." And he goes, "I'm a fan of yours because you just saved my column right now." And I said, sure enough, the next day he eviscerated Steve Alford and UCLA, and Alford was gone the next year. But anyway, Scott and I are on our way back to Jamestown. It's Wednesday. Bona plays Thursday. Now in Dallas. There's no way I'm going to Dallas, Texas. There's no possible way. I have a quiz. I got to get back for it. Meanwhile, and I have a Spanish test that Thursday. I got out of the quiz. The professor was great. He said, "Don't rush back." The weather wasn't great, so don't rush back. We're in Cleveland, and I'm going back and forth with Chris Olson. And I gotten to know Chris. His father and my grandfather were close friends and teammates and everything. And he goes, "You got to go to Dayton." He goes, "You got to go to Dallas." I said, "Chris, I don't know how I can make this possible." He goes, "Look up flights. I got you there." He goes, "You can get yourself back. I got you there." I said, "You got to be kidding me." Scott's like, and I'm telling you, reading this to Scott as Scott's driving, he goes, "Let's stop. Let's go get lunch, and then you figure this out with your parents." So my parents were in Florida at the time, visiting my grandmother. So I called my mom and I said, "Mom, I think I'm going to go to Dallas." She goes, "You're not going to... No, there's no possible way." I said, Chris Olson's telling me that he could buy my... He's telling me he's happy to make it possible for me to go down there. She goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, we'll see how it goes. In the meantime, Scott's able to... He has a friend in Dallas that says, "If you're coming down, you got a place to stay." He said, "Does this apply to my coworker here?" And he says, "Absolutely." So Peter Swanson, Jay Young's cousin, he offers me the chance to stay with him in Dallas. How incredibly hospitable. I went from... in the meantime, what we found out was Adrian Wojnarowski from ESPN and his wife Amy, both of whom have become really, really great friends. Woj, the ESPN NBA insider who Woj bombs and everything, they've donated to the school to make it possible for students to go to the game in Dallas, and that student media will be able to go free of cost. So Chris has got my way there. All I need is really a way back. and the school reimbursed it. And so I go from, it's Thursday morning, I go from Buffalo. I had an uncle that brought me to the airport in the morning. Buffalo to Washington Reagan to DFW. I'm there really not for 24 hours. And we covered the game. They played Florida. Very tough for them to have won that game because of the timeline of everything. But we're there. We're at the Dallas Mavericks arena. Just really, really awesome experience to be there and kind of see how it is to, be covering these things. And as Bonaventure's losing, we're the game's over, and I'm on the phone with my parents and texting back and forth with my parents as the game's going on, and they said, well, we should probably book you a flight tomorrow to get back. And I said, well, it's probably right, because I didn't book a return. They would have won Thursday, I would have been there Saturday for them to play. And we go, I ended up going back DFW, O'Hare to Erie. And I was back and home, and I was back on campus on Sunday. It was the most incredible week of my life. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Wow, we could do this for hours.
I know.
It'll never get you to work. But as you look at your crystal ball and you say 5 years from now, and there's a little snow in the crystal ball, what do you think? What do you think? Where would you have hoped to be? I know that's a tough question. But. It
is, just because I'm still kind of at the intersection of what do I want to do. I have to tell you, I love what I'm doing right now. Jack D'Agostino, John Whitaker, Eric Tishy, they've been, Mike Bird, they've all been so good to me since I've made the switch from sports to news. And I've been covering the schools and a little bit of city stuff, but region. I guess I hope I'm doing something where I'm happy and I'm content, and obviously that's very ambiguous, but I just hope that I hope that it's something where I'm loving what I'm doing, where I'm able to make a little bit of a difference through my writing, whether that's as a columnist, a sports columnist, whether that's as covering state government, covering the White House, covering something that I'm kind of taking it day by day, because I love what I'm doing now, but who knows? I mean, I guess in wrapping it, I'm lucky that I was given so many different opportunities to use whatever possible talent I have in different ways. Sports, news. We organized a debate at St. Bonaventure that was broadcast. That's another proud thing that I've done. The arts, development communications, the Jackson Center, law, legal. I've been lucky that I've been able to been given so many different chances to work and experience different things. And that's a credit to this area too, because there's so much for us to do and grow up doing, and opportunities and amenities here like the Jackson Center that give you the opportunity to explore and do the things you want to do, and just fantastic things. So as I look down the road, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but between what I've learned here, what I learned at school, what I've learned here from the various different professionals I've had the chance to work with, yourself included, and what I've learned at school from those incredible professors and minds, and I'll be prepared, hopefully, to do whatever it is that I end up doing, and it kind of keeps me thinking that that the sky is the limit, not in the sense of like my own personal, but that there are a lot of different things that I can keep doing. So we'll see where it goes.
What's a question you expected that I haven't asked you?
I knew you were going to ask this one. Gosh. It's not a question, but I'd be remiss, and I would have thought that you would have brought this up. Tom Mara's influence in this whole story. Another incredible Bonaventure alum who has given so much to this area, to his alma mater, and to the surrounding communities. I had the chance to. It was funny. The night before the Cowboy interview, I get a call from Randy Sweeney. It was the day of, actually, because it was the deadline. Randy Sweeney says to me, "Cameron, this is Randy Sweeney. Why haven't you filled out your CRCF scholarship application?" I said, "Randy, it's done. I promise. I just got to hit submit." And what I found out was, Tom and his wife and his family, they donate money for a really great scholarship to help send kids of this region to St. Bonaventure. That's wonderful that he's done so much for this community. And I had the chance to meet, and I'm so glad I had the chance to meet him. And not only was he so great in that, I mean, he provided a stipend for my second year at the Jackson Center, which was phenomenal. To be able to do that work and to get paid for it was nice. And he was great, and we had a great time conversing that morning that we secured that money. And he's been such a great supporter of mine ever since. He was, I heard from him after I won the Hellinger Award. He was, and I hear from him very, very often. And it was sad because our actual commencement ceremony, he was supposed to get an honorary doctorate this year. And I hope that they still find a way to honor him at the university because he's done so much. I mean, he dedicated the athletic fields there. There are a lot of good people in this world, and Tom Mara is one of them. And he's played figuratively in my career, and is playing figuratively in prominently and importantly in the career of any kid that goes to St. Bonaventure from here. And I'm so grateful to him. He has been nothing but kind. And it's one thing to get an endowed scholarship with somebody's name on it and attached, and to meet the person and to get to know the person that's making it possible for you to pursue your education. You can't beat it. You can't beat it.
Well, we can't beat the fact that you have been such an impact in such a short period of time. Does it dawn on you, frankly? You're a kid. I mean, you're a college graduate, but nevertheless, you've accomplished so much. This is sort of a Forrest Gump type story where you have met so many people, done so much, and written about it. It's not just simply a smile and you shake their hand and get their autograph and a photo op, which no doubt you probably do, but then you write about it, then you preserve it, and then there's a legacy aspect to it because it's now there. The photo is there, the article is there, the memory is there, and so I mean that's remarkable what you've accomplished in a very short period of time. Do you ever wake up in the morning saying, "Wow"?
Occasionally, but I'm a blessed individual because of anything that I've been able to do is only because of the people who have supported me, and that's my parents, that's my family, my brothers, my sisters-in-law. I've got a great support system behind me, and I'm nothing without them, and I know that that things would be different. You're just blessed to have a good support system like that. People that just tell you to go after what you want to go after your dreams, and we'll give you the resources, whatever you need to get there if you can't get there yourself. But it's been because of them that they've encouraged me to dream big, and hopefully, the dream still goes and the dream's still alive, and we'll see where life goes. But I'm a blessed person. I've had good people in my life, good people, and that's the only reason. If I have any success, it's because of them.
You're the best. Thank you.
This was a pleasure, Greg.
Now off to work.
Off to work. That's right.